The prince consort took another concubine. Actually, the rumors were wrong, he took more than just one. How many? Again, Jishu held up 2 fingers at me. I thought I got it. Jishu shook her head and corrected me flatly. To be precise, 250. First, I had to admit it. 250 was quite an eye-catching number. Second, the news that the prince consort was taking concubines was spread by me. As for why, it all started on my wedding day, too. My name is Ju Shui. I am the only daughter of Prince Ming. The prince consort is the good-for-nothing son of the great General Shin. The general was a legendary war hero, guarding the border for decades. His merits were so great that there were no more titles to grant him. To keep him content, the emperor planned to marry his own only daughter to the general's family. Unfortunately, 3 days before the wedding, my cousin, the real princess, suddenly broke out in a terrible rash, bright red and hideous. Among the imperial clan, only I was her age, so the emperor made me a princess, to marry Shen Yuqing in her place, and keep the Shen family satisfied. On our wedding night, the prince consort never came to my chamber. Why, allegedly, he stepped into the bridal room with his left leg first, slipped on a banana peel, twisted his ankle, and threw his back out. A prince consort with a thrown-out back couldn't possibly share a bed with a princess, otherwise. The label "the prince consort is useless" would be all over the capital by the next day. No matter, he couldn't come to my room, but I could go see him. I told Jishu to make a rich bowl of chicken soup, then pushed open the door to his study under the quiet moon. The moment I opened it, the silent night grew even stranger. Whoa, what a huge bed! My prince consort was lying on it, with 2 delicate beauties beside him. Clothes were scattered on the floor, and a red narcissus-patterned undergarment hung from the bed curtains. The prince consort had one swollen ankle propped up, held the 2 ladies in his arms, and whimpered, "Princess, I only wanted to give every woman under heaven a home." Sigh, my prince consort's ambition was truly so noble. I decided right then to support him with all my heart. How? Jishu, sipping chicken soup quietly behind me, used her clever head, then get him concubines, 10, 20, whatever, right? Why didn't I think of that? Wasn't the prince consort's dream to give every woman a home? Then I'd just bring them all into the general's mansion and fulfill his great ambition. I pulled out my purse at once and told Jishu to find some stunningly beautiful concubines for him. Jishu tilted her head. "Princess, how many? How many? 3 or 5 were definitely not enough. If I was going to fulfill my husband's noble dream, I had to get plenty, otherwise I'd be unworthy of my reputation as a virtuous wife. Then, 3 to 500, we could get more later if needed." 3. That night, Jishu came back from her errand and handed me a stack of albums, each with portraits of the women chosen as the prince consort's new concubines. She knelt before me and winked. "Princess, I've done as you ordered. The moon is lovely, and the prince consort must be lonely all alone. I even picked 2 ladies and sent them straight to his room." Jishu was my personal maid, raised with me since childhood. Sometimes she understood me without me saying a word, like right now. The prince consort must love the gift I sent him. I nodded, told her to close the door tightly, then went to rest contentedly. Sometime in the middle of the night, screams broke out in the general's mansion. Faintly, I thought I heard my own name. He must have been so surprised that he couldn't help but thank me from afar. Sigh, I really was a thoughtful wife. 4. I'd just woken up when I heard noise in the yard. Through the half-covered window, I saw a flash of blue robes. It was the prince consort's favorite color. "Jishu, is the prince consort here to greet me?" I propped myself up and let her help me rise. "Princess, the prince consort has been kneeling in the yard for an hour, and those 2 ladies too." The prince consort was always so respectful. Before dawn, he'd come to pay his respects. I was moved almost to tears. To live up to his affection and courtesy, I put on an elaborate trailing phoenix skirt and told Jishu to do a delicate peach blossom makeup for me. I had to dress nicely to deserve his respect. It took a full hour to finish my hair and makeup. Surely he'd be delighted. When I stepped out, I saw the prince consort kneeling on the stone slabs, rubbing his knees, his face twisted in pain. Beside him knelt 2 timid women, One's face was covered in freckles. Like the sesame pancake I'd eaten last night, plenty of toppings. The other smiled when she saw me, clear drool dripping from her mouth onto his robes. I hurried over and told Jishu to help him up. Unfortunately, my skirt was too long. I stepped right on his hand. Instantly, a huge swelling rose on his fair skin. He winced in pain but said nothing. He hid his hands behind his back and forced a flattering smile at me. My prince consort was so kind. He pretended nothing happened so I wouldn't feel guilty. I twirled the tasseled hairpin in my hair and smiled gently. What brings you to me, my prince consort? Princess, I know I was wrong. Please send them away. He knelt on the ground, refusing to get up no matter how Jishu pulled him. He kowtowed several times, hard enough to make me wince. My prince consort was always so respectful, kowtowing to me early in the morning. As his wife, I had to comfort him well. Did they not serve you well? I was confused. The prince consort had told me himself that he only wanted to give every woman a home. To fulfill his ambition, I sent Jishu all over Chang'an to find girls trapped in dirty brothels, ransom them, and send them to his bed. Brothels had ranks, and the lowest were the back alley holes. Most of the girls there were either aging or disfigured, all staring longingly at the silver in Jishu's hand. And it wasn't just brothels, there were plenty of beggars in the capital's dark corners. I had Jishu pick out some beauties, pay them silver, sign their indenture contracts, and bring them into the mansion as concubines. The prince consort was kind-hearted. His dream was to give every woman a home, so I naturally supported him fully. I had to spend the least money and buy the most girls. Sigh. I really was a virtuous wife. Ahem. As for the first two girls, they were too expensive. The top courtesans from the capital's finest brothels cost enough to buy hundreds of concubines. So I sent them straight out of the mansion and quietly saved the money to help the prince consort bond with his new concubines. I even had him tied to the bed and left with the two ladies for the whole night. What did they do? Jishu, who'd eavesdropped all night, turned bright red and couldn't get a word out. Those two were excellent at serving men, apart from the freckles. Drooling, snoring, and being so heavy they almost broke the bed, they were perfect. The prince consort must have loved such fun. Princess, please spare me. I won't dare do it again. Dark circles hung under his eyes. He must have had a wonderful night. For some reason, he kowtowed even harder after I spoke. I sighed, a little disappointed. Why was he ruining my good intentions? But it didn't matter. If he didn't like last night's pair, I'd get him a new batch. The girl with the oozing face. The snoring girl, the 180-pound girl, never mind, they could all serve him together. When I watched the three girls help the prince consort leave, his face looked full of emotion. He must have been very satisfied with my arrangement. In that case, I had to let all the other girls in the yard take turns serving him. I quickly told Jishu to make a detailed schedule, 225 young ladies. The prince consort had to meet every single one. Just thinking about it made me happy. I was so thoughtful. Of course the whole capital should know what I, Jishu, had done. Within a day, everyone in the capital knew the prince consort had taken more concubines. 5. News that I'd taken concubines for the prince consort reached my father's ears by noon. He summoned me back to the prince's mansion to explain. The prince consort is kind and gentle. Father, I should support his dream with all my heart. Besides the prince consort, my father was also gentle and loyal. The one he loved was a fairy from his paintings. Unfortunately, the fairy died young. She married into the mansion as my stepmother, then vanished a few years later, never to be seen again. Yeah, look at this painting. How is it? Father waved me over to admire his new beauty painting. Father's skill is naturally perfect. I didn't even need to look up to know who was in it. The woman who'd lived in his heart for decades, gone in her prime, she'd become his white moonlight. Still missed after all these years, I stared at the fairy in the painting and suddenly thought something was off. Her eyes and brows seemed to be missing something. I rolled up my sleeves and picked up a brush, ready to add it, but my hand slipped. The brush fell onto the painting, ink spreading, blackening the fairy's face completely. Oops, I ruined the beauty's face. I looked at father with innocent eyes, full of guilt, but father was the most generous man. How could he blame me for an accident? so father only patted my cheek gently and said fondly, "Yeah, you really are my good daughter." Naturally, after the two children father had cherished most vanished, and the fairy he'd longed for was gone too, I was the only one left in this huge manor to keep him company through all the long years. Of course he loved me dearly. 6. My husband was gentle and kind, my father was loyal and generous, even my uncle the emperor was utterly devoted. For decades, he had hung a portrait of my mother, Xiao Shueyao, in his bedchamber. Whenever he missed her, he would summon me to the palace to admire it with him. My mother was the most beautiful woman in the world. A single dance had made her famous, and suitors had worn through the doors of the Xiao clan of Lanling. Sadly, her fate was cruel. She never married the one she loved, and before her beauty faded, his favor died. She ended her own life with a length of white silk. Even the emperor was obsessed with her. The scroll was yellowed, the casing made of fine sandalwood. The woman in the painting was still ethereally beautiful. Uncle stared at it, enchanted. It was the portrait I had commissioned from the greatest painter in the realm before my mother's wedding. It had once been mine, but I could not bear to see him wasting away for her, so I gave it to him. From then on, the portrait never left his bedchamber. He gazed at it every day. Sure enough, I had only been home half a day when he summoned me again to look at the painting. The palace was more familiar to me than my own manor. Servants bowed as I passed, but their eyes held pity. Pity for what? I leaned in to listen. Our princess is so kind and lovely. Why did she have to marry that good-for-nothing son of General Shen? I hear Shen Yuqing frequents brothels and has a terrible reputation. It's all because Princess Nianyao ate Osman thus cakes on purpose to ruin her face. Our princess had to marry in her place. How pitiful she is. Pitiful. I smiled and turned toward the emperor's chamber. Uncle was standing before mother's portrait. When he saw me, he waved me over. "Yeah, you look more and more like your mother each day." I smiled silently and stood obediently beside him. He looked at the painting. I looked at him. Uncle was now past 40. He should have been strong. Yet for some reason he had only one son and one daughter. The daughter was my age, Ju Nianyao. The legitimate princess born to the empress, doted on beyond measure. The prince was only 5, born to a noble consort. He was sickly, ill every few days, weak and frail. No other children had been born in the palace. He stared at the portrait for a long while before reluctantly looking away. He spoke casually, as if by chance. "Yeah, I hear you've taken many concubines for Shen Yuqing. Their appearances are somewhat hard to describe." Uncle was truly all-knowing. In just one night, he already knew everything. I hid nothing and answered sweetly, "The prince consort has great ambitions. As his wife, I naturally support him with all my heart." The emperor's face was stern. He always frowned, as if someone owed him silver, but the sharp light in his eyes could not be ignored. "Yeah, I know you have suffered, but what is done. You married Shen Yuqing in Yaro's place, so you must live properly. Do not disappoint my expectations." His tone suddenly sharpened. Eagle eyes piercing me, I chuckled inwardly, then folded my hands and bowed respectfully. Ye obeys, pleased by my obedience. His smile softened. He added, "The great general will return to the capital next month. By then, do not forget your mission. Yeah, once it is done, I will reward you handsomely." Mission? It was simply to poison the returning general. I held back my laughter. Uncle was still as scheming as ever. He wanted someone dead, yet put on a solemn, righteous air. I wondered if the general, far away at the border, knew the emperor he served was plotting his death. Sigh, the imperial family was truly heartless, except for me, of course. I was just a gentle, virtuous, and thoughtful princess. 7. I kept the vial of poison uncle had given me in my sleeve for a month. The day drew near. The prince consort's ankle had finally healed completely, but his already thin body had been drained these days. His cheeks were sunken, and he staggered when he walked. I could not let my distinguished father-in-law think I had bullied his son. I waved my hand at once and ordered Jishu to buy invigorating food to build him up. Jishu held her basket, turned at the door, and tilted her head in confusion. "What counts as invigorating food? Ginseng, sea cucumber, deer antler, ram kidney, bull penis, pigeon soup, loach, eel, oysters, lamb kidneys." I listed them all in one breath, nearly out of breath. The prince consort sitting beside me forced a smile worse than crying, his hand trembling as he held his tea. I quickly turned to him. My prince consort, I will restore your health before father returns. He opened his mouth to speak, then collapsed straight back into his chair. Sigh, so weak. After my relentless efforts, 10 nourishing meals a day, his face finally regained some color. On the day the general returned, I saw a light in the prince consort's eyes I had never seen before. Don't worry, even if father returns, he won't disturb our life together. In an instant, the light in his eyes died. I looked up at the harsh sun and quickly ordered the delicate concubines to hold umbrellas and fan him. Several women passing by the mansion muttered, "A grown man, using an umbrella, is he not up to it?" The prince consort blushed furiously and rolled up his sleeves to fight. I grabbed his collar and pulled him back. "They're just jealous that I treat you well. Don't fall for it, my prince consort." "Thank you, princess." He forced a gentle and kind smile and bowed respectfully. Half an hour later, a column of armored men marched imposingly toward the general's mansion. The man at the front looked somewhat like my husband, but with heroic spirit. Sitting tall on his horse, he commanded respect at a glance. 2 young men flanked him. The one on the left strongly resembled the general, but was handsomer and more delicate, with cold eyes. Still, I couldn't help staring. As for the one on the right, maybe it was just my imagination, but he looked a little like me, though clearly not as good-looking. His eyes were dark and poisonous, like a snake. I disliked him at once. I straightened my clothes. As a married woman, I decided to put aside my princess status and greet my father-in-law first, but before I could step down the stairs, a blue blur flashed beside me. The prince consort sprinted to the general, threw himself at the horse's hooves, and wailed, "Father, father, you're finally back. Wara, your son has been bullied to death. Father, Wara, general." I saw a flicker of disgust in the general's eyes. The stern man's expression cracked. He dismounted, grabbed the prince consort by the collar, and dragged him back to me. "Have some dignity." The prince consort fell silent at once, obedient as a bullied little wife. As the general dismounted, the 2 young men followed. The general looked at me, his eyes conflicted. I guessed he was thinking, should he greet the princess, or let her greet him? I was not so formal. Supported by Jishu, I gave him a simple bow. Princesses of the Zhou dynasty were highly honored. For me to bow first showed great courtesy. The general quickly lifted me up, then glanced at the young man on his left. "Fua, come greet your elder brother and sister-in-law." Fua, elder brother and sister-in-law. Wait, someone was going to fight the prince consort for the inheritance. I widened my eyes and stared at the handsome youth. Whatever else, he was stunningly good-looking. I stared, dumbfounded for a moment. The youth stepped forward slowly, folded his hands, and bowed to us. "Greetings, princess. Greetings, elder brother." The prince consort was just as shocked as I was. He grabbed the general's sleeve, astounded. "Father, when did I get a younger brother? Shenfu, have you forgotten?" The general slapped his hand away in annoyance. "Ah, I understood. Shenfu, the general's bastard son. Strictly speaking, he was less than a bastard, born to a kept mistress, not even entered in the Shen clan records. His mother was a young Jew courtesan, with no official status, kept outside the manor. Only after her death did the general bring Shenfu home, but within a year, Shenfu had run away for some reason. I remembered the incident clearly, because it had overlapped with a major event. The prince consort also seemed to recall who he was. We exchanged a look. In his eyes, I saw deep frustration and anger, as if saying, "Great, a little brother here to steal my inheritance." We exchanged pleasantries at the gate, and I learned that Shenfu, after running away, had joined the army at the border. He had risen through the ranks by his own efforts. When the general finally saw him, he had doted on this son who looked so much like him. He returned this time also to have his name entered into the clan register. That meant someone was going to fight my prince consort for the inheritance. I quietly sized up my prince consort's frail frame. What a worry. How could he possibly win? Jishu tugged my sleeve and asked if I should poison the general now. Poison him? Not me. Before, General Shen had only one son. If General Shen died, Uncle would let the prince consort inherit his position. But he was so weak, he'd probably die in battle at the border within 2 years. Then Uncle would lavish praise on me, the only widow of the general's family. I'd gain both military power and a good name. But now, there was Shen Fu, who was good at fighting. Everything was different. If I dared to poison the general, Uncle would send me a cup of poisoned wine before long. A terrible deal. I wasn't doing it. Sure enough, before I'd even settled in at the mansion, a note arrived from Uncle. It told me not to act rashly and to wait for his orders. Fine, I could wait. That night, the emperor held a palace banquet specially for General Shen. I wasn't feeling well, so I stayed home. When I woke up the next morning, I learned something huge had happened at the banquet, and by some coincidence, it involved me. 8. My younger brother, missing for years, had returned. He was the other young man who'd come back with the general, Xu Nianping. Well, he should now take the imperial surname, Zhu Nianping. When I first saw him, I thought he looked a little like me. I never imagined he was my own brother. My birth mother died young, and father soon remarried. Funny thing. On the day the new princess arrived, she brought 2 children, only 2 months younger than me. They turned out to be father's own children, but after a few years. My little brother and sister snuck out for the Lantern Festival and vanished. Father searched for ages. He only found my poor sister's body in the most famous brothel in the capital. Their mother couldn't bear the grief. She ran out at night looking for her son and never came back. All 3 were gone without a trace. Father grieved for a long time. He even used the emperor's most secret guard division, but found nothing. Years passed, and my poor brother had reappeared. It was said that at the banquet last night, wine splashed onto Zhu Nianping's sleeve. He lifted his sleeve to wipe it, and father, standing right beside him, saw the birthmark on his wrist. After checking his age and details, they confirmed he was father's son, my own brother. The scene was supposedly very moving. Father hugged his precious son and wept in front of all the ministers. He took him home that same night. The whole capital was talking about it. Since my brother is back, I, as his elder sister, must go see him. I turned to Jishu behind me. She was impulsive, naive, and couldn't hide anything. Right now, I could see the hatred burning in her eyes. 9. As soon as I returned to the manor, I saw red lanterns hung everywhere. What a lively scene. Inside the study, father held Zhu Nianping's hand. They stood by the desk, looking at something. Father, I heard Nianping is back, so I hurried over to see. Father heard me and waved me over. Yeah, come meet your brother. I stepped closer and studied the young man who looked half like me. He'd looked familiar the first time, and still did, but his eyes were dark and gloomy. He didn't even smile at me. He looked away, staring at the painting on the desk, pretending I wasn't there. As the elder sister, I wouldn't hold it against him. I looked closely and saw a deep scar on his forehead. Luckily, scars suited men, adding a heroic air. Pinger must have suffered all these years wandering outside. Before I could finish, father stepped in front of me, stern. Pinger is your own brother. Now that you're married into the general's mansion, you must look after his future. I smiled and nodded. Naturally, this was my half-brother. After all, of course I'd take good care of him. Satisfied, father nodded, then he waved me away. Your brother and I have more to catch up on. Go back to the general's mansion. I said nothing and turned to leave. Before I left, I glanced at the painting on the desk. It was still the fairy from his paintings, Zhu Nianping's own mother. I'd barely left the study when the door slammed shut behind me. No consideration at all. Jishu scowled and spat at the door. I shook my head. That girl really couldn't hide anything. 10. After visiting the manor and returning to the general's mansion, I walked into another drama. The prince consort's clothes were torn open, his left foot was bare on the stone slabs, and he was shouting at the corridor. 2 delicate girls huddled on the ground, crying and covering their chests. I looked closer. These weren't the girls I'd bought. Standing in the corridor was a young man. I stepped nearer. It was my brother-in-law, Shen Fu. As soon as I walked in, a quick servant reported to me. Shen Fu had been resting in the backyard when he heard giggling. He went to the pavilion and saw the 3 of them hiding by the lotus pond. The green lotus leaves hid some of the scene, but the sounds were embarrassing. Everyone else kept their distance. Only Shen Fu sat calmly in the pavilion. The prince consort, interrupted, stormed out yelling at him. But Shen Fu wasn't one to back down. He sliced the prince consort's clothes with his sword and was about to throw him out. It was a mess. I watched the farce and planned to ignore it, but as I turned to leave, Shen Fu suddenly stepped out. Martial artists walked silently. I jumped back in fright. As I stumbled, Shen Fu reached out and steadied me, keeping me from falling. Young General Shen, you have battle merits, but I am a princess of the dynasty. The prince consort is mine. You may not lay a hand on him. I hadn't wanted to interfere, but he'd forced my hand. I had to say something. Shen Fu was handsome, but he never smiled. Still, he was beautiful, like frost in winter, with hidden loveliness beneath. I glanced at the disheveled prince consort, TSK, both sons of General Shen. What a difference. Princess, have we met before? Such a cliché line. I laughed out loud. If other girls heard you say that, young general, they'd think you were flirting with them. I teased him, but he said nothing. I added, maybe I saved you in a dream. He heard my mockery and stepped back, voice cold. All those women in the mansion, did you arrange them? Oh, did he want some too? I watched the prince consort being led away, leaving the two girls crying in the corner. I told Jishu to take them away. Only Shen Fu and I remained in the corridor. If you want concubines too, young general, I, as your sister-in-law, would gladly arrange it, as long as you don't mind. I didn't know if he minded, but I saw him back away like he was facing a great enemy. There are too many women here. They disturb my father. Please, princess, send them away. Send them away. Impossible. Those delicate beauties were carefully chosen for the prince consort. They cost me a lot of silver. How could I just send them away? Those women have no one. The general's mansion gives them a home. Besides, they're the prince consort's concubines. Why shouldn't they stay? I watched his face grow colder. A playful urge came over me. I stepped closer and spoke in a voice only he could hear. If seeing them makes you lose control, I'll have Jishu pick 2 girls just for you. How about that? We were alone, so I spoke plainly. No need. Shen Fu's face was cold. He turned and left at once. But I saw the tip of his ear turn red, and his steps were hurried. 11. I was summoned to the palace again by Uncle. Uncle admired my mother's portrait, not even glancing at me. I stood there for a long time before he spoke. Have you met the general's younger son? I have. I nodded, thinking of Shen Fu, an extraordinary young man. I didn't know you thought so highly of him. Uncle turned to me, his calm eyes holding a test. How about making him your prince consort instead? Prince consort? I already have one. I smiled and refused. A princess couldn't have 2 prince consorts. If word got out, my reputation would be ruined. Shen Yuqing is not worthy of you. Yeah. Uncle smiled and turned back to my mother's portrait. Be obedient, and I will let you send your mother's body and spirit tablet back to the Xiao clan in Lanling. He was threatening me again. General Shen now has only 2 sons. If I really changed my prince consort, it would mean Shen Yuqing would either die or be crippled. Then they would marry me, the troublemaker, to Shen Fu, stirring up chaos in his family, while Uncle reaped the benefits. This wasn't even the best scheme. But in this plan, I was destined to be cursed by thousands. Yet as long as I lived unhappily, Uncle would be pleased. For a moment, the twisted, obsessive joy in his eyes showed through. Madman. My smile faded slightly, but I showed no fear of his authority. When I married Shen Yuqing in place of Zhu Nianyao, your majesty already promised me. It was ridiculous, really. My mother had been the noble princess consort of Ming, yet her body lay in the palace, in a secret chamber beneath the bedchamber of my ruthless uncle. I had been there as a child. My mother lay on an ice bed, preserved in huge blocks of ice, surrounded by her favorite flowers, affectionate, yet absurd, even in death. She could not rest in peace, and the man behind it all was the emperor who claimed to love her deeply. Yeah, this is the last time. Uncle placed his hand on my shoulder and squeezed hard. The pain made me frown. Obey, and I will return your mother to you. I had never been allowed to choose whether to take this deal, nor could I end it casually. What could I do? I could only kneel on the ground, bow my head, and thank him for his mercy. It didn't matter. One day, I would bring my mother home. 12. After leaving Uncle's chamber, I wandered into the imperial garden. Before I even drew near, I heard my cousin's voice, Ju Nianyao, the most honored legitimate princess of the dynasty. Spoiled and arrogant, yet now her face was soft and shy, and there was my brother-in-law. The two were talking. Shen Fu looked as cold as ever. Ju Nianyao stood before him, head bowed, twisting her handkerchief, looking like a girl with a crush, and behind them, I saw Ju Nianping hiding behind a tree. He stared at my cousin, his eyes fixed on her. Something was off about that look. Having grown up in the palace, I knew exactly what Ju Nianping was thinking. I walked up to him and pointed at the pair. Look at them. Don't they make a nice match? Ju Nianping glanced at me coldly, then turned and left. If you like her, hiding in the dark won't work, I said. He didn't stop, but his steps slowed slightly. My father was not the late emperor's own son. Back then, a favored concubine dominated the inner palace. To save her life, the then virtuous consort had adopted my father from the imperial clan. He had grown up with Uncle, and their bond was deep. He was the only prince in the dynasty. His status was unmatched. By Ju Nianping's generation, the bloodline was just outside the 5 degrees of mourning. If they truly cared for each other, there was no rule against it. After Ju Nianping left, I walked straight up to the other two. Ju Nianyao's face fell when she saw me. She held back her anger, probably trying to keep her poise in front of the boy she liked. What brings you here? Cousin, I haven't seen you in a while. So I came to look for you. I slipped smoothly between them, then turned to Shen Fu. I'm heading back to the manor. Shall we go together? Shen Fu pressed his lips together, clearly impatient. His expression softened slightly when he saw me, and he nodded quickly. Ju Nianyao's face darkened even more, her sarcasm impossible to hide. A sister-in-law riding in the same carriage as her brother-in-law. That wouldn't be good for your reputation. Cousin, bad. I thought it was perfect. I stepped closer and whispered in her ear. Uncle summoned me today to choose a new prince consort for me. Shen Fu is mine. She shoved me away in anger. Shen Fu stood behind me and steadied me. Princess, show some respect. Shen Fu's eyes were like frozen pools. He grabbed my wrist and pulled me away. He did not look back. No matter how Ju Nianyao shouted behind us, only when we were in the carriage did he let go. I heard what you said just now. He looked upset, as if he wanted to say something but held back. Oh, good, you heard it. Just be prepared. I nodded, fearless. After all, I had spoken quite loudly to Ju Nianyao earlier. It was only natural he heard. Seeing my carefree attitude, Shen Fu's lips tightened, and he spoke through gritted teeth. You are my brother's wife. I smiled, not for much longer. Uncle's power reached everywhere. He held the power of life and death. He also commanded a secret guard division, doing his dirty work. Changing my prince consort, for him, it was easy. 13. When Shen Fu and I returned to the general's mansion in the carriage, we found Shen Yuqing naked, thrown at the front gate. A crowd had gathered around him. I leaned in to listen. Everyone, judge for yourselves. Shen Yuqing, son of the great general, was caught in broad daylight committing adultery with my wife. If this mansion doesn't give me justice, I'll petition the emperor. Everyone will know what kind of man Shen Yuqing is. The man held a stick. As he spoke, he beat Shen Yuqing with it. My poor prince consort was beaten until he coughed up blood, yet no one dared to help him. Perfect timing. The general was still in the palace. Shen Fu and I had only just returned. All those in charge were gone, and the secret guards blocked anyone from interfering, letting the scandal spread. When Shen Yuqing saw me, he ignored his shame. Tied up, he wriggled like a worm toward me. Princess, save me, save him. I couldn't. Caught in the act, whether he'd done it willingly or been framed, many people had seen it. The word was out. By the next day, the whole capital would know my prince consort had committed adultery. Uncle would surely fly into a rage and reprimand the general's family for disrespecting the princess. What a clever plan, princess, Shen Fu said beside me. It was the first time I'd seen him smile, but it was a cold, cold smile. 14. The scandal blew up, the next morning at court. Uncle publicly reprimanded the general. After court, he spoke privately with the general. Whatever was said, the general returned with a calm expression. Shen Yuqing was badly beaten and bedridden. and because he'd been caught in the act, the doctor declared, "The eldest son of the Shen family will never be able to have children again. Terrible luck." The general summoned me and Shen Fu. Originally, Qing'e was to marry Princess Nianyao. When that fell through, the emperor, out of kindness, had you marry into this mansion, princess, to my son, Shen Fu. But Shen Fu was away at war, so his elder brother married in his place. It has been unfair to you. Therefore, the emperor has decreed that next spring, you and my younger son will be married properly. Typical of uncle. I smiled coldly and said nothing. The general stepped before me. Beneath his gentle gaze, I saw humiliation. "I am sorry to put you through this, princess." He could not bear to stay. After speaking, he turned and left. Only Shen Fu and I remained. "I told you, I won't be his wife much longer." We bowed to heaven and earth. "You can't erase that with a few words." Shen Fu frowned, clearly displeased. "What if I never bowed with him at all?" "What do you mean?" It was true. On our wedding day, I had been unwell and had someone else bow in my place. Strictly speaking, Shen Yuqing and I were never truly husband and wife. 15. Because of the arrangement between Shen Fu and me. Uncle held another palace banquet to put a decent face on the whole thing. The banquet was in the imperial garden. When I arrived, many guests were already seated. They looked at me with strange, probing eyes. I didn't care, but Shen Fu seemed unhappy. After a few words, he left the banquet for the back pavilion. I watched quietly as my cousin hurried after him. Then Zhu Nianping disappeared too. "Jishu, this dance is rather boring." I held up my wine cup and handed her 2 grapes. Jishu took them, grinning slyly. "Just wait, princess. The good part is coming soon." It came quickly. Less than half an hour later, a palace maid came screaming over. Uncle had already returned to the inner palace. Only the noble consort was in charge. She recognized the maid as Nianyao's servant, Ji Hua, and quickly asked what was wrong. Princess and young General Shen. They're in the clear frost hall." She couldn't finish the sentence, but everyone here was sharp. They understood immediately. All eyes turned to me. I set down my cup and raised an eyebrow. "What? Want to go see? Fine by me." Everyone wanted to laugh at me anyway. We might as well go together. When the doors of Clear Frost Hall were kicked open, everyone's mocking expressions changed. On the bed lay Zhu Nianyao and Zhu Nianping, tangled together, their clothes scattered everywhere. My father's face turned pale. Zhu Nianyao, crying and confused, woke up. Her shy expression drained away completely when she saw who was in bed with her. She kept muttering, "It was a mistake," then pointed a finger at me. "It was you. It must have been you. Zhu Shui. You set me up, back when I was supposed to marry." I ate Osmanthus cakes for no reason. "Everyone thought I did it on purpose to make you marry in my place. But this was all your scheme, wasn't it?" What was she talking about? The Osmanthus cakes had been given to her by her trusted maid, Ji Hua, and as for this incident, I had not left the banquet for a single moment. How could I have had time to plan any of this? I dabbed at my eyes with a handkerchief, looking sorrowful. "Yao Yao, how could you frame me?" 16. Whether it was a frame-up no longer mattered. The most honored legitimate princess of the dynasty had lost her virtue in front of everyone. That alone was enough to send uncle into a fury. Even my father was scolded many times over it. My father and uncle had once been the closest of friends. Back then, a favored concubine held all the power, and her son was favored by all. Everyone thought my third uncle would take the throne, but uncle and my father joined forces. One married the daughter of the Wang clan, who held military power, and the other married the daughter of the Xiao clan, beloved by scholars, my mother. Together, they brought down the concubine and her son. That was how deep their bond had been. But now, looking at the wound on my father's forehead, that trust was gone. My father refused to see me. Zhu Nianping knelt outside the study door. He did not look up when he saw me, still choosing to ignore me. "Your wish has come true now. Even though the emperor is angry, it will only be a matter of time before he grants you a marriage to the princess." I spoke the truth. He looked up and smiled coldly. "But the emperor's trust is lost. Without his favor, the Prince Ming manor will be devoured by the other noble clans, not even bones left." Because uncle and father had been so close, Many powerful families had long wanted to tear father down and take his place as the emperor's most trusted minister. With such a perfect opportunity, they would not let it go. What could be done? I sighed softly and knelt halfway before Junyenping. Blame it on this. Father was not the one who took the throne. If he had been, you could marry anyone you wanted with a single word. It was the truth. Even as a member of the imperial clan, he still had royal blood. Junyenping stared at me coldly, then stood up, pushed open the study door, and walked in. I watched his back and smiled. He really is just like his mother. Greed will never be satisfied. After leaving the manor, I did not return to the general's mansion immediately. Instead, I went to a villa on the outskirts of the capital to meet an old acquaintance. The woman huddled in the corner of the room, muttering unintelligibly. Of course she couldn't speak clearly, she had no tongue. But I knew exactly what she was doing, cursing me with the most vicious words in the world. I took the jade pendant from her waist. The white jade was warm in my hand, a rare treasure. I lifted my skirt and squatted before her, squeezing her face. Bai Jing, guess, will he follow the path I've laid out? Bai Jing tried to bite me. I quickly let go, pulled a hairpin from my hair, and stabbed her shoulder. Blood flowed from her shoulder, staining my sleeve. Truly a madwoman. She was in agony, but I felt exhilarated. Before I left, I set a fire. I let the flames consume the villa. Another candle flame in my heart had gone out. 17. It was late at night when I returned to the general's mansion. Luckily, as a princess, no one dared to question me too much. No matter what I did, before I could reach my room, my arm was yanked, the world spun, and suddenly I was sitting on the roof. Shen Fu, even if we are to marry eventually, there's no need to rush, I teased him. Seeing many wine jars scattered beside him, I reached over, took one, and drank from it. What do you make of today's farce? Shen Fu set down his wine jar and turned to me. The sharp liquor burned my throat. A rush of emotions suddenly surged up. I tossed the jar aside and lay down on the roof. Shen Fu, let me tell you a story. There was a young lady from a noble clan. She mastered music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, and her beauty was unmatched under heaven. She met her beloved young man, and they swore eternal love. Then one day, she woke up in the bed of the young man's brother. She thought she had betrayed her love, and fell into deep sorrow. In the end, she was driven mad. But those people still would not let her be. They hounded her until she died. Don't you think she was tragic? I finished the story and turned to look at Shen Fu, only to find that he had lain down beside me at some point, eyes closed, as if fallen asleep drunk. Shen Fu, I called, but he did not move. Asleep, I smiled faintly. With a light tap of my right foot, I was back on the ground in an instant. No one but Jishu knew I knew martial arts. I returned to my room, but Shen Fu, left alone on the roof, opened his eyes as soon as I was gone. His eyes were dark and deep. 18. The imperial decree of marriage came quickly. The most honored legitimate princess of the dynasty would marry into the Prince Ming manor. The whole capital knew of it. The wedding date was set for half a month later. It was rather short notice. But the earlier scandal had been too shameful. An early wedding would quiet the gossip. On the wedding day, I woke up early, fed the pigeons I had been raising carefully, then went to the Prince Ming manor. Uncle doted on this daughter deeply, so he attended the manor on the day of her marriage. The manor was lively. Draped in red silk, the newlyweds entered through the main gate, ready to bow to heaven and earth. Junyenping wore groom's robes, which softened the gloom in his eyes somewhat. But the wedding was not to be completed normally. Just as Junyenping and Junyenyao were about to bow, black-clad assassins burst out from all around. Their target was clear. They charged straight for Uncle. I was sitting beside Uncle. A cold glint appeared before me. Before I could think, I threw myself over him to protect him. A sharp pain shot through my shoulder. The pain made my mind go fuzzy. When I woke up, 3 days had passed. Many things had happened in those 3 days. My loyal father, having gained a son in middle age, had grown ambitious. He had tried to kill Uncle during Junyenping's wedding and seize the supreme throne. Unfortunately, I had protected Uncle, and the assassin's father had carefully trained were no match for the Emperor's secret guards. The Prince Ming manor had fallen. My father and brother were now in prison. As for me, because I had saved Uncle, I was granted permission to recover in the palace. When I woke up, Uncle was sitting by my bed, twirling the hairpin my mother had left me. When he saw I was awake, his smile faded at once. If Juku's rebellion had succeeded, you would have been the most honored princess of the Ju dynasty. Juku was my father's name. I forced myself up and stared at the hairpin in his hand. I am already a princess. Why should I be greedy? Uncle did not believe me. His smile did not reach his eyes. I forced a weak smile and pointed at the hairpin. Besides, my mother loved you deeply. As her daughter, I will protect you for her. That one sentence made Uncle let down all his guard against me. He even began to pity me. I had calculated his weakness. With a face that looked 7 parts like my mother's, he would soften again and spare me again and again. I meant to step on his weakness to get what I wanted. He said, if only you were my daughter, hers and mine. I smiled sweetly and tugged at his sleeve coquettishly. I am Uncle's daughter. I was before, and I am now. My words pleased him. After all, Uncle had dreamed of having a child with my mother. Ju Nyenyao, Nyan Yaro, Nyan, Yaro. My mother's name was Xiao Shueyao, TSK. How ridiculous. In the end, he had the imperial records changed and listed me as his daughter. I became the princess of Zhengguo. The Prince Ming manor had fallen, but I was not harmed at all. Instead, I rose higher, becoming the most honored princess of the dynasty. Everyone cursed me in secret, calling me a flatterer who deceived the ruler. But what did I care? I only wanted to win. I went to the prison to see father. He seemed to have aged overnight, his temples white with gray hair. He sat in the corner with his head hanging, 2 mice scurrying around his feet. I stepped inside, seeing the man who had been glorious for half his life reduced to this. I burst out laughing. Ju Shui. You ungrateful wretch. Father smiled coldly and tried to slap me. Jishu stepped in front of me, grabbed his hand, and kicked the charging Ju Nianping flying. Ju Nianping collapsed to the ground and screamed. Ju Shui, this was all your scheme, wasn't it? You incited me and father to rebel, so you could rise to power. Ju Shui. Do you even know who your father is, who your family is? Father, family. It was ridiculous. I stepped on Ju Nianping's chest and pressed down hard. Watching him wince in pain, the anger in my chest finally eased somewhat. Family? I have no family like you. Oh, I almost forgot. Your precious daughter, Ju Nyanan. I sold her to a brothel. I pulled the white jade pendant from my bosom and tossed it at father's feet. Father picked up the pendant, and his defeated expression instantly turned manic. He scrambled up, grabbed my neck, and shouted, Ju Shui, what have you done to Bai Jing? Bai Jing, the woman father had cherished above all else. What had I done to her? I had just cut out her tongue and broken her legs. On the 15th day of every month, I cut wounds into her skin, poured honey over them, and let ants bite and gnaw at her. I did not let her die. I wanted her to live in worse than death. After hearing my words, father squeezed my neck even tighter, cursing wildly. Ju Shui, you and your mother are both whores. I had been smiling, but at that sentence, I shoved him away. I pulled a dagger from my sleeve and plunged it hard into his right hand. Juku, this dagger is soaked with the blood of the woman you love. Does it hurt? Watching him suffer so terribly filled me with joy. Before I left, I glanced at Jishu beside me, her eyes red. After waiting all these years, you can avenge Jichi now. Jishu cried. After a long while, she wiped her tears, knelt down, pulled a dagger from her boot, and slowly approached Ju Nianping. She said, I can finally avenge my sister. 19. My mother was a daughter of the Xiao clan of Lanling, the noble lady that scholars and poets from across the realm admired. Her dance had shaken the capital. She and uncle had fallen in love. They should have been a match made in heaven, but at a palace banquet, my mother was found lying in the same bed as father, clothes disheveled, a night of scandal. She had no choice but to marry father in tears. She thought she had betrayed uncle, and wept day and night. My mother had always been weak. For 10 years, father had secretly fed her slow poison. 10 years of marriage, yet his heart had long belonged to another. He wanted my mother dead, to make way for that woman. In the end, my mother was gone, poisoned for years. She was finally drowned in the lotus pond, her body soaked in the water all night. By the time servants found her, her face was ruined beyond recognition. I knew it. Father, Bai Jing, and their 2 children had done it together. That woman and her children moved into the manor on the anniversary of my mother's death and became the official princess consort. They humiliated me. They even tried to kill me. What else could I do? I had to strike first. Lantern Festival. My half-siblings lured me out of the manor, planning to sell me to a brothel. I once had 4 maids, all named after the arts: Qin, Qi, Shu, Hua. Ji Qin died trying to save my mother from drowning. Ji Hua did the best hairstyles and was taken away by Zhu Nianyao. Ji Qi and Ji Shu were blood sisters, but Ji Qi died protecting me from Zhu Nianping, giving me a chance to escape. When people hurt me, I would pay them back with my life. So I found the same human traffickers, used my mother's dowry to buy them off, and sold my half-sister to a brothel. I had wanted to kill Zhu Nianping directly, but he was surprisingly tough. I hit him over the head with a stone, yet he survived. As for Bai Jing, she lost 2 children one after another, with no proof it was me. Grief drove her half mad. I waited patiently until she could bear it no longer and ran out of the manor. Then I caught her. I locked her in a courtyard next to Father's favorite villa. I cut out her tongue and broke her legs. Every time Father came to the villa, I made her crawl through the dog hole and watch the man she loved flirt with other women. I still remember how overjoyed I was after I did all that. To celebrate, I even saved a young man under the bridge and gave him several silver ingots. Just a little celebration for my revenge. Zhu Shui, you're terrifying. After hearing everything, Father's madness faded into calm. He clutched the jade pendant tightly, curled up in the corner, and wept. Compared to you, my schemes are nothing. I only wanted to avenge my mother. 20. After everything that happened, Uncle quickly issued an imperial decree. I was to marry Shen Fu as soon as possible to stabilize the general's mansion. The day the edict arrived, Zhu Nianyao stormed into my palace and shouted at me, "Your father was only torn apart by 5 horses yesterday, and today you're in the mood to marry. Zhu Shui, are you even human?" Watching her self-righteous face, I would have felt ashamed if I didn't know the truth. Zhu Nianyao, I stole your first fiancé. Naturally, I can steal your sweetheart too. We were alone in the palace. I saw no need to hide anything. That's right. The Osmanthus cakes had been sent by my people. Jihua had been mine all along. Everyone would only believe that Zhu Nianyao had refused to marry the general's son and ruined her own face on purpose. The whole world would pity me. And now, I had stolen the young man she loved. I wanted to bully her. I wanted to watch her go mad. A father's sins are repaid by his children. I was already being merciful. Besides, she had bullied me openly and secretly for years. I was never the forgiving type. I told her, before Shen Fu and I are married, you still have a chance. She seemed to realize something and ran out of the palace. Watching her back, I shook my head. Women in love, always so irrational. Near dusk, Jishu brought me bad news. Shen Yuqing was dead. Zhu Nianyao had been spoiled her whole life. Furious after her humiliation with me, she rushed to the general's mansion, wanting to elope with Shen Fu, but Shen Fu rejected her, telling her he would never love her in this life. A proud princess had been spurned. Her hatred burst out. She drew her sword to kill Shen Fu, but somehow, the blade sank into Shen Yuqing's chest instead. As he wandered in the back garden, one strike through the heart, Shen Yuqing died instantly. When the general returned home, he found his beloved son lying dead on the ground. Shen Yuqing had been reckless, but he was the only child of the woman the general had loved most. Furious, the general drew his sword to kill Zhu Nianyao. Luckily, the emperor's secret guards arrived in time and saved her. This scandal also spread far and wide. Everyone waited to see how the emperor would handle it. I waited too, but what came was an edict for Shen Fu and me to marry in 3 days. Princess, what is His Majesty thinking? The mansion is in such chaos. If you marry in now, the general will surely take it out on you. Jishu sighed, too worried to stay silent. I did not think about the marriage. My mind kept wandering to Shen Fu. No one would have guessed it, but Shen Fu was the one with the cruelest schemes of all. 21. History repeated itself. On the day of my wedding to Shen Fu, General Shen rebelled. He could not swallow his pride. His beloved son, doted on like a treasure, had been killed by an imperial princess, and the emperor thought a simple marriage could fix it. Humiliation burned in him. He decided to rise up. Whether someone else pushed him toward this, no one could say. He held military power. Even against the emperor's secret guards, he might not lose. Unfortunately, he missed one thing. Shun Fu, he was the emperor's man. Watching his own son hold a sword to his neck, General Shun stared in utter disbelief. He opened his mouth, as if to ask why. But the secret guard struck first. Warm blood sprayed out. Any words left unspoken were swallowed forever. General Shun was dead. Uncle rightfully took back military power and made Shun Fu a general. My marriage to Shun Fu went ahead as planned. Night fell. Shun Fu and I stared at each other. Neither spoke first. After the chaos that afternoon, his clothes were still stained with blood. If I leaned close, I could smell the iron scent, if I recall correctly. The Prince Ming manor was executed only yesterday. The princess marries me today without mourning. Shun Fu took off his outer robe carelessly, speaking without restraint, not caring that this should be a taboo subject for me. I gripped my wine cup and shot back, not as impressive as young General Shun. Or should I say General Shun now? You betrayed your father this afternoon, and tonight you're ready for the wedding night. Quite the mindset. Come on, we might as well hurt each other. One marries right after her family's execution, the other buries his father and enters the bridal chamber happily. We suited each other perfectly, in our rotten way. Jishu and the wedding maid stood by the door, listening, wanting to bury their heads in the ground. I waved Jishu to take everyone out. The spacious bridal chamber was left with just the two of us. Speak, I said, pouring him wine. Speak about what? He did not take it, only asking back, about why you betrayed your father. To betray his own father, to watch him die before his eyes, either greed for power, or deep, burning hatred. I did not think Shun Fu was the first type, only hatred remained. What kind of hatred would make a son kill his own father? I was curious. Shun Fu fell silent for a long time, then told me another story. A young Jew courtesan, admired by many, fell in love with a general and waited faithfully for him. Pregnant with his child, she rushed to the capital begging for a proper title. But the general was no gentleman. Deeming her old and worn, afraid of upsetting his wife, he settled her in a separate courtyard. But the general's wife eventually found out. She was arrogant and spoiled. How could she swallow this insult? And so, when stinking beggars broke into the courtyard and pinned the woman down, tearing her clothes, the child hiding in the cabinet bit his palm until it bled. The child wanted to go to his father, but the general called his mother tainted. A friend had taken a fancy to her, so ignoring her desperate pleas, the general gave her to that friend, who had twisted tastes. A year of torture turned the bright, beautiful woman into skin and bones. Even then, all she wanted was to see the general one last time. But the general abandoned her in the wilderness just because his wife complained of a headache. By dawn, only a broken corpse remained. Beside it, a few strands of dog hair. Her death was cruel. The boy watched his mother's mutilated body, and endless hatred took root in his heart. But he was too young to fight a general with military power, so he left the mansion. Years passed. He won fame and merit at the border, finally gaining enough status to stand beside the general. He had only one thought: to make the general pay. The general had driven his mother to death. He would make him answer for it. He would push the general to rebel against the emperor. Then leak the plan to His Majesty in advance, winning his trust. 2 birds with 1 stone. After hearing his story, I pushed the wedding wine toward him. We really are quite well matched, I have to say, both cold-hearted, both ruthless when killing. He took the cup, his dark eyes fixed on me. Your ambitions don't end here. Princess, sigh, he saw right through me. Then, husband, will you join me again? I leaned closer, eyes shining with certainty. What do I get? He smiled casually, twirling his cup. What do you get? I thought for a moment, stood up, slipped off my luxurious wedding gown, wrapped my arms around his neck, and sat straight down in his lap. Is getting me not enough? He laughed. He tilted his head back and drank the wedding wine in one gulp. Then lifted me in his arms and carried me step by step into the red bridal bed. Inside the room, the storm raged on. Outside, a figure flashed past, too fast to see clearly. 22. In the early morning, I curled up in his arms. Shen Fu held my shoulder, his chin resting on my forehead, voice thoughtful. You never consummated the marriage with him. I never did. On our first wedding night, I placed a banana peel at the door. Shen Yuqing stepped on it as expected, so the wedding night was delayed. After that, I found him more than 200 women. He naturally had no time for me. I thought he was filthy. I sat up, watching the dragon and phoenix candles nearly burn out. I wrapped myself in a robe, stepped down, and trimmed the wicks. In 3 days, it will be my mother's death anniversary. Since you're my husband now, you should come meet her. Some things must finally end. Shen Fu nodded. He stood, put a robe over me, then hugged my waist from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. Have you really decided? Afraid? I asked. Shen Fu shook his head and held me tighter. Then let's do it. 3 days was enough for my plan. Shen Fu was now a general, busy with official business. He stayed in the palace for 2 of those 3 nights. Even the night before we went to the temple, he had to enter the palace once more. I waited for him until the candles burned out. 23. Uncle accompanied me to the temple, along with Shen Fu. It was my mother's death anniversary. Uncle wore plain white robes, dark circles under his eyes. He clearly hadn't slept well. Mother's memorial tablet was enshrined in the temple. 5 candles stood on the altar. I had already snuffed the wicks of 4, leaving only 1 flickering flame. I burned incense for Mother, then glanced at Uncle. Grieving alone beside me, I smiled faintly. If you're so sad, Uncle, why did you betray her back then? These words were taboo. As soon as I spoke, all servants and guards left the hall. In an instant, only Uncle, Shen Fu, and I remained. Yeah, what do you mean by this? Uncle held 3 incense sticks, his gloomy gaze falling on me, dark and dangerous. What do I mean? Everyone thought my mother had been immoral, falling into bed with my father, bringing shame to all scholars. Even Mother believed that, but who knew it was all a plot by this man before me? Back when the favored concubine wreaked havoc in the palace, Uncle had to abandon my mother to inherit the throne, marrying General Wang's legitimate daughter instead. But if he proposed to her himself, the late emperor would have been displeased. Furthermore, marrying the Wang daughter would gain him military power, but lose him the support of the Xiao clan and all the scholars. What else could he do? He set a trap. He personally sent my mother to his own brother's bed, then arranged for everyone to witness the scene. Ashamed, Mother had no choice but to marry Father. Father and Uncle shared a common enemy. One married my mother, winning the hearts of scholars. The other married General Wang's daughter, gaining military power to fight my third uncle. Poor, foolish mother. She was played for a fool for 10 years. Father had long loved another. He did not love Mother, he loathed her. After all, she had been involved with Uncle. So he thought her unclean. They poisoned Mother, humiliated her, and finally drowned her in the lotus pond. Ju Shen, Ju Ku, Bai Jing, Ju Nianping, Ju Nianan. All were responsible for my mother's death. Uncle's smile vanished completely. He stepped before me, squeezed my face, his voice icy. So you know everything? Yeah, yes, I knew everything. You plotted against my mother, yet obsessed over her. She was your sister-in-law. You kept her body in the palace and defiled her. Worse still, you let Ju Ku, Bai Jing, and their children humiliate her for 10 years. You knew they were poisoning her, yet you never said a word. Ju Shen. You claimed to love my mother, yet you sent her to your brother's bed with your own hands. Is this what you call love? It was disgusting. Stabbed to the quick, he flew into a rage. I had no choice. Afterward, I wanted to make it up to her, bring her into the palace, let her stay by my side in a new identity. But she refused. She actually refused. She was mine. She should have stayed with me even in death. So you let them kill her. I closed my eyes, tears streaming down my face. Yes. She refused to stay with me, so I killed her and kept her body with me. Madman, I could bear it no longer. I shoved Ju Shen away, pulled a dagger from my chest, and stabbed at him. But Ju Shen reacted quickly, leaning back and trying to seize the blade. Yeah, I have doted on you, loved you, treated you as my and Yaro's own daughter. This is how you repay me. Rage burned in Ju Shen's eyes. I'll kill you to avenge my mother. I had waited years for this day. Avenging my mother was the only thing keeping me alive. I planned everything just to kill Ju Shen on my mother's death anniversary. I glanced at Shen Fu, standing silently to the side, and signaled him with my eyes. He nodded, pulled a firework from his chest, pushed open the door, and set it off. Shen Fu was now a general. To show imperial favor, Ju Shen had given him all of General Shen's military authority. My two-staged rebellions had left Ju Shen's greatest trump card, the Secret Guard Division, severely weakened. Now, with Shen Fu and I working together, the world was in my hands. The military is mine now. Surrender quietly. I pressed the dagger to his heart, one thrust away from avenging my mother. Ju Shen seemed to realize our alliance, yet suddenly laughed like a madman. He pointed at me. Ju Shui, do you really think you've won? What did he mean? Before I could think, something cold pressed against my neck. I looked down. It was Shen Fu's ever-present sword. He held it to my throat, his face cold. Shen Fu, what are you doing? General Shen has been mine all along, Ju Shen said. On your wedding day, he sent someone to inform me of your treason. I gave you chances again and again for Yaroa's sake, but you still refused to cherish them. Ju Shen shook his head, his tone full of regret, but I saw wild, stubborn joy in his eyes. Shen Fu, you betrayed me. I stared at him, wanting to laugh. I had planned everything, woven a great web. I thought that since we had been intimate, since I offered him high rank and glory, he would stand with me. But in the end, I serve only His Majesty, Shen Fu said calmly. Ju Shen was clearly pleased by his loyalty. He patted his shoulder. Your loyalty is not wasted, my dear subject. I shall place the Secret Guard Division in your hands. So that was it. The Secret Guard Division was Ju Shen's final trump card. If he trusted Shen Fu enough to give him the Secret Guard Division, he must have trusted him completely. With that trust, why would Shen Fu risk everything on a gamble with me? In the end, I still lost. Yeah, you're still too inexperienced. If you apologize properly, I might still spare you. Ju Shen lifted my chin, his gaze carrying a hint of obsession. My face resembled my mother's by 7 parts, and my clothes today made it another 2, but it was disgusting. I shook off his hand, ignoring the sword at my throat, and turned toward the altar. Ju Shen signaled Shen Fu to lower his sword. Perhaps he thought I was a trapped beast, a woman with no way out, so he toyed with me like a cat with a mouse. Enjoying my final moments, I looked at my mother's memorial tablet, picked up a pair of scissors from the altar, and stared at the flickering candle. Yeah, will you apologize? He asked again. I did not answer. Ju Shen sighed and waved at Shen Fu. So be it, then I have no choice but to kill. A sound of piercing flesh. The scissors in my hand had just cut the wick of the last red candle. As the last light went out, my shocked, desperate expression faded. I turned to Ju Shen. Are you sure I'm the one who lost? Ju Shen looked down at the sword piercing his chest, staring at Shen Fu in utter disbelief, deep confusion in his eyes. I raised my dagger and walked slowly toward him, pressing it to his heart, shocked. Can't figure out why Shen Fu is still on my side. Why? I thrust the dagger deep into Ju Shen's heart. Warm blood sprayed out, splashing onto my face, but I only felt joy. I had finally avenged her. I leaned close to his ear, voice overflowing with delight. Because Shen Fu has been mine all along, from the day he joined the army. This was all my plan. I needed military power, and I needed to take his Secret Guard Division for myself, so I pretended to be at odds with Shen Fu, letting everyone see, letting Ju Shen lower his guard, to win Shen Fu over. He would most likely give him the division as a sign of trust. I succeeded. I stared into his hateful eyes and told him one last secret. The scroll of my mother's painting was soaked in poison. You kept it in your bedroom for decades. That's why you could not have imperial sons. As for your precious son, he is the child of the noble consort, and another man enjoyed wearing that green hat. You, Ju Shui. Ju Shen's eyes widened, filled with endless hatred. I gave him no more chance to speak. I pushed the dagger deeper. Ju Shen's heart was pierced. The secret guards in hiding did not appear. They only recognized the token, and now it was in Shen Fu's hands. This game, I had planned it for 7 years. 7 years ago, the Lantern Festival. I sold Junyanan to a brothel. I smashed Zhu Nianping's head with a stone and threw him into the river. Watching my enemy's children suffer such fates, I was overjoyed that day. They wanted to kill me, so I destroyed them first. I bought a candid whore and planned to enjoy the festival lights. At the bridge, I saw a ragged boy crouching in the corner. His body was covered in whip marks, clearly beaten badly. I was never kind, but I was in high spirits, so I didn't mind helping him. I brushed away his messy hair, revealing a delicate, handsome face. Shen Fu. I knew this boy, the illegitimate son of General Shen. His mother was a young Jew courtesan. His background was low, and those who opposed the general always mocked him for it. I had met him once before, so I was shocked to see him under the bridge. I saw the deep hatred in his eyes, like a beast lying in wait. His aura was strangely similar to mine. So I gave him all the silver I had. I told him, if you want revenge, stand before him, destroy all his hopes with your own hands, let him die in despair. Young Shen Fu took the silver. He promised that when his revenge was done, he would help me with all his strength. He also said he would come back to marry me. I asked why. He said, under the whole sky, the only ones who want to kill their own fathers are you and me, so we were meant to be together. I smiled and said nothing, for I did not think this boy could ever stand beside me. 7 years later, he finally stood before General Shen. He destroyed the Shen family with his own hands. He succeeded, and began to keep his promise to me, and he finally had the right to stand by my side. I had grown to admire him. 25. Zhu Shen stopped breathing, a dagger in his chest, lying straight before my mother's memorial tablet. I had finally avenged her. Happy, Shen Fu held my shoulders, his voice carrying a faint, unspoken tenderness. Of course I'm happy. I planned this for so long just to kill them myself. How could I not be happy? Zhu Nianan, Zhu Nianping, Bai Jing, Zhu Ku, Zhu Shen, everyone who had hurt me and my mother, I had destroyed them all. A weight lifted from my heart. I turned to Shen Fu. Now you hold all the power. You could make yourself emperor. I was not joking. Back then, the favored concubine had been so domineering that only 3 princes remained in the palace. Third uncle died young, father died horribly, and now Zhu Shen was dead by my hand. Of the imperial line, only a sickly prince under 5 remained, and he had no imperial blood. He was no threat at all. It would be the easiest thing in the world to seize power now. Shen Fu glanced at me, then dropped his sword and knelt on one knee. This subject greets His Majesty. 26. The first year of Yunqi, Princess Zhenghua Zhu Shui ascended the throne as empress, supported by General Shen Fu. The 15th year of Yunqi, the female emperor passed away and passed the throne to Crown Prince Zhu Yang. In the same year, General Shen Fu died at the border. The entire nation mourned. 27. Shen Fu, do you think it's right for us to just hand the throne to Yang like this? I looked at the ripe hawthorn tree in the yard and suddenly thought of my poor son. Yang loved hawthorns, just like me. I had faked the wedding night for real, and this child was the result. He was only 14. Yet he had to bear the burden of being emperor. I felt sorry for him. I missed him. Shen Fu held a basket and ruffled my hair. Yang is not young anymore. He can carry the duty of a king, but I still think. Before I could finish, Shen Fu lowered his head and kissed me, swallowing all my unspoken words. Shen Fu held me in his arms and said he loved me. He had loved me since the first time we met, and never stopped. I giggled and hid in his chest, looking up at him. Shen Fu, there's something I don't think I ever told you. He lowered his head, eyes gentle. I love you, Shen Fu.